I read the poem this summer. I finished it a few days before seeing the movie, and that severely hindered my ability to enjoy the movie because the movie is very different. The strange thing is, it's not as if I loved the poem. There were a number of highlights, and I am very glad I read it, but it felt like there was definitely room for improvement with a film adaptation. I thought if Nolan trimmed the plot, cut some of the slow, meandering chapters while executing the big, famous set pieces, he'd have a home run just by virtue of visualizing this epic myth. But Nolan went way further. He completely changed the themes and ethos of this story. He made a lot of changes, but there's two really big ones, so let's just start with those. Oh, spoiler alert, by the way. The first major change is that Nolan made the story about Odysseus reckoning with the part he played in destroying the city of Troy. He makes him feel guilty about the Trojan horse. And that comes to be the central idea for his character. And I didn't like that at all. It's not that Odysseus in the poem is this super complex, three-dimensional guy, but he does have a ton of cinematic qualities. He's clever, he's daring, he's very emotional, he weeps over his dead comrades, he cries about missing his wife, who he genuinely loves. And he's also manipulative, arrogant, prideful. And his main claim to fame, the thing that everyone loves about him, is that he's a great military tactician. He doesn't feel guilty about the Trojan horse at all. He's proud of it. But if no one wanted to add that angle on top of all these things, I could probably overlook it. But it's almost like he sanded down all of those other qualities and only focused on this completely made-up guilt and PTSD. The whole decision felt self-conscious, like Nolan didn't know how to visualize all of these traits in a way that modern audiences would accept. It's as if he thought people might not root for Odysseus unless he's introspective and repentant. If we stick to the portrayal of the poem, people today aren't going to view him as a hero. It's all very contemporary in this imagining of the character, which I found annoying and even judgmental. To put it all more simply, they turned Odysseus into Oppenheimer, a man tortured by the destruction his ideas introduced to the world. It works for Oppenheimer, not for Odysseus. The second huge change is that this movie almost completely removes the gods from the story, which is the biggest mistake you can make when adapting the Iliad or the Odyssey. This movie does have Calypso, who's a nymph, and Circe, who's also a demigod of some sort, but they don't really count. The travesty here is what they did to Athena, played by Zendaya. She's essentially reduced to a hallucination, and she comes off like an expression of Odysseus' conscience. You never get the sense that she's a goddess using her power to shape the events of the story. And they force Zendaya to play her super bland. It's pretty ironic and even somewhat amusing to me that the movie goes out of its way to give all these other female characters some agency and dignity that they don't really have in the poem, while completely depowering Athena, who in the poem is a total badass and is completely running the show. Look, I expected Nolan to make changes. That was bound to happen, and he should have made changes. And I'll get to the ones I liked in a sec. But for these two, the complete rewrite of Odysseus and the enormous de-emphasis of the gods, they changed the story so fundamentally, it left me asking, why did Nolan want to adapt the Odyssey in the first place? While those 2 points kept me from loving the movie as a whole, there's still a ton that I enjoyed and some significant changes that I really liked. I love the pace. It essentially does the non-linear, pseudo-flashback style editing that they did in Oppenheimer. There's a few moments in the flashbacks before Odysseus leaves for the Trojan War that added detail and depth. I think it's great we see him with Penelope so we can buy into that relationship early on. There's also some great foreshadowing with his bow and the boar hunt that leaves him with a scar. The poem just introduces those things out of the blue when they're necessary for the plot. And one of my favorite additions is seeing Robert Pattinson's character, Antinous, as a teenager interacting with Odysseus a little bit. It's funny, but also revealing that Antinous himself mentions these moments years later as he's trying to deceive everyone. Later in the movie, the pacing and timing lead to a big crescendo and reminded me of what Nolan did in Dunkirk, with coordinating multiple timelines to all peak at the same moment. In the poem, there's a lot of filler and things that just get dragged out, so Nolan definitely improved things in that regard. He cut out all of the right chapters. As for my favorite scenes, I loved the siren song. It's just a small part of the poem, but the movie emphasizes it really well, and I love the decision to make it seem like the song is so beautiful that it's driving Odysseus insane, because he can't satiate the desire it's arousing in him. That's good stuff. I also like the parts with Circe. The pig transformation was really disturbing, and having Circe use her hands to physically wrestle the men into their new shapes, it added a lot of energy to the scene instead of just seeing her, wave a wand or sit back and watch as poison takes effect. And then, of course, we have the stringing of the bow. Come on, just an epic movie moment. With any big successful movie these days, the lead performers instantly get some Oscar buzz. So for the Odyssey, I've heard a lot of praise for Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Samantha Morton, and John Leguizamo. But I wasn't really impressed with any of them, to be honest. They were all competent. Well, Anne Hathaway was quite good. Matt Damon, he was pretty forgettable. But I love Matt Damon, so I'm just going to blame the script. The real standout performance in this movie is, of course, Robert Pattinson. This dude is the king. Not of Ithaca, but of acting. He completely understands his character and steals every scene he's in. "Somebody get these beggars out of here" is hilarious. It's not even a funny line. He just makes it funny. I love him. Last thing about the actors, Tom Holland doesn't have it, man. It's sad to see, but outside of Spider-Man, he doesn't know what he's doing. This movie is so long, and because of the source material and Nolan being Nolan, I have so many more thoughts, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. Maybe I'll even do another video at some point, because this movie won't be going away, and I didn't say everything that I wanted to say. I'm confident I would have liked it more if I wasn't so familiar with the poem, but even still, I don't know that my issues wouldn't have shown themselves eventually. The crux of the problem is that Nolan injected all these modern ideas into this ancient story and completely ignored a lot of the meaning the story had to begin with. I thought Nolan was going to crush this, but in hindsight, he was always the wrong person to adapt it. I do think this will improve in its entertainment value when I watch it again, fully aware of all the major changes, but today, it's a disappointment, and it'll probably never be one of my favorites. I gave this 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. Thanks for watching this video. I recently ranked all of Nolan's movies ahead of the Odyssey, so if you like this video, you should check that one out too. And for the record, I'll put this one spot above Oppenheimer. As always, let me know what you thought in the comments. See ya.